Hello, I'm high up in the London Bus Museum. We're in the middle of our winter refresh, opening next spring with a brand new exhibition down here at the Brooklands Museum. As you can see, the work is going on around me. You've never seen the London Bus Museum like this. Cleared of many of the vehicles. Whilst we do the work, we're changing the whole internal layout. Such buses as we do have inside are just parked closely together. So we hope that you are enjoying these series of videos. Here's some information and here's some news about what's going on inside the London Bus Museum in Brooklands.
Well, the first thing we had to do, of course, was to move loads of the vehicles out. So here you can see we're starting off with getting the modern hall cleared. It's quite difficult, as you can see, manoeuvring in a tight space, but we managed it. And then it was time for Trolleybus 1812 to go. So here's the AEC Militant, which also lives at Brooklands, just getting ready to tow 1812 here. And so 1812, of course, can't move under its own power. So here she is being pulled out of the museum on her way to safe covered storage and then onwards back to the British Trolleybus Society at Sandtoft. We've had 1812 for just over 5 years. It's been really good to have a trolleybus in the museum, and we thank them very much indeed for them letting us have the bus. And it was time to get the SMS out. These longer single deckers are always a difficulty manoeuvring and getting them out, but we did manage. So the SMS moving under its own power. And the RT chassis, that moves under its own power too. It has trouble keeping its air up, but we did just manage to get that cleared out of the way. And then RLH 48, again moving just outside for the moment whilst we clear some space. Beautiful sunny day in Brooklands as the vehicles start to move. No shortage of volunteers when there's vehicles to move, but there weren't many volunteers for this. This is the canteen trailer with 702B. Not the easiest vehicle to manoeuvre, especially in the confines of the museum, but we did manage to get her into place. So looking down now as we have a quick conversation about what's going to go next. This is a team meeting taking place, making sure that we're ready for the next phase. And we're now just taking a bird's eye view across the lineup. We've got RML3, we've got G351, we've got RLH 48 lined up there at the front. And as we swing round, we can also see in the back row, we've got ST922, S454, the canteen trailer. And then we're looking into the Warhol, which is also soon to be demolished. We'll see that shortly. And the Warhol is being moved. It's being kept just as it is, but it's going to be in a new place. In fact, it's going to be just about the last thing you see as you leave the museum. Across on the right, as we're taking down some of the display walls, the materials are being carefully folded up. Some of those will get reused in the new iteration of the museum. So you can see the team there taking down those wall displays and getting them safe, ready for reuse. So once more, just looking out there now across what's left of the modern hall, some vehicles now tightly packed in as we get ready for the next phase. So we're taking the shot by flying the drone across the front of the lineup. It's really good to get this unusual view just reminding us that everybody's a photographer nowadays. That's part of the plan behind the new museum, is to make sure that the photographers, which includes everybody, you know, even the kids with mobile phones, all the photographers get a good view of the vehicles in our collection. So we have the drone inside very carefully. It just gives us the chance to take this unusual look at the vehicles in our collection. We can just go a little bit higher, take a look at the roof, look at the difference between the roof on RLH 48 and the Guy from everything else, look, with the strengthening on the top. And so we see for the first time down through the wall that's been removed there, RM 140, which is still going to be the gatekeeper. First thing that people see when they arrive at the new museum, the smiling face of the traditional London bus. It won't be quite there, it'll be facing the other way around, so that the front is more forwards towards the door. And as you can see, we've already taken down again some of the displays, getting ready now to be folded up. Outside we've got some vehicles lined up, mostly those with doors, of course. So outside we've got several of the vehicles lined up on the finishing straight to give us the room to move inside the museum. So we're very grateful to Brooklands Museum for allowing us to park some vehicles outside, otherwise it'd be much more difficult to do this job. And as you can see, a nice collection of vehicles just parked outside, just for a short period, whilst we do the work inside. So now increasingly we've got this space cleared. 2093 is now out of the Warhol. We've got the floor covering up and everything we have, including the horses and the horse buses, now into the what was the modern hall. In due course we're going to get the floor here completely cleaned, and as soon as we do that, then the vehicles which are in the modern hall will move across into the other place, the other half of it, where RML 2760 is seen now. Then we'll clean the modern hall area, floor, and then we'll start to put the vehicle back into their place. So here's RML 2760 back from East London. They've very kindly had it painted, done a whole load of work for us in anticipation of a new 5-year loan period to the museum. STL 2093 still moves under its own power. It's really noisy. The exhaust manifold is not connected, so all the tailpipe emissions come up through the cab. That means you can't drive it for very long without having to come out to breathe some clean air, but it still moves despite its appearance. And now RT3491 moving into position. Actually, a position not far away where it'll be in the final display, because it'll be in the country bus area, which is just about where these vehicles are now. So 3491 moves itself into position, and now we can really get on with dismantling the Warhol. As you can see, the display wall is already down, and the team is getting ready to move the one on the other side. And that whole framework, everything, the wall, the roof, and the display walls, move to a new location just before the shop, which you'll exit as you leave the museum. And here we have the team doing their absolute best to preserve the display material. It'll be quite all right. It's on a fabric material, and it gets stretched into position on those walls. So this looks serious, but in fact they'll stretch back into position really well. And here's how it comes apart. As ever, comes apart much more easily than it goes back together. But these stretched panels now being loosened and removed from the wall frame. So we are grateful to all of our volunteers there, as you can see, led by Ian Reddick, who is masterminding the physical bits of the movement inside the museum. He and his team working really very hard to get all of this material down. We are ahead of schedule at the moment, which is great news. We've got to be ready for next spring. So now we're taking a ride on the scissor lift. We're going up in the air, taking a look down at the museum as you can see it. These scissor lifts are ideal for helping remove some of the structures. So we're up in the ceiling, looking down across the museum. Vehicles parked at one end, waiting for the floor to be cleaned at this end, then they'll swap over and we'll clean them at the other end. If you've never seen the museum like this, you'll never see it again, I don't suppose. So it's great to have this fabulous view of the museum.
It's not the call I thought it was going to be.
And we can see across to the public entrance, which will still be in the same place over there in the corner. You'll come in through those doors. Those doors hopefully we're going to make automatic, which will be easier for people with mobility difficulties to get in. And you're seeing now the beginnings of the re-erection of the Warhol at the far end, just behind the shop. And the overhead trusses just going into place, getting ready to hold together the structure. And then the display material will go back in. There's going to be a new floor, and then STL 2093 will go back in. And so there we are, RML 2760 back into place, leading the convoy. Look at that. Buses through the generation, London buses through the generation, headed by the last ever route master, the third one, and our other wonderful range of vehicles that are at the London Bus Museum at Brooklands. We'll be back open next spring with a wonderful new layout. So thank you very much indeed for joining us. We will, of course, be back with the next instalment of the Winter Refresh here at the London Bus Museum. And as you can see, as it says on the side of RML 2760, the largest collection of preserved London buses. You can see us at the londonbusmuseum.com. Check in the website. Please, if you're not a member, come and be a member. Then you can help be a volunteer and do some of this exciting work. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. I've been Leon Daniels. I'm the chairman at the London Bus Museum.